Boatworks today is sponsored by Total Boat and Alexial Yacht Coatings, as well as supported by the generosity from the beautiful folks over on Patreon. Thank you so much. This has been a very odd week. So the best I can tell, everything seemed to start going downhill starting last Friday. After I finished laying up the gel coat, I don't know if I remembered to mention this in video or not. I know I've mentioned it in the past, but gel coat needs to have a certain temperature, or warmer for it to fully cure. And that cutoff is right around 65 degrees. That's a pretty safe temperature. Anything below that, and it gets a little sketchy. So, best I can tell is Friday night, after I finished rolling on the gel coat, not only did I have one boiler or furnace go out, one of them being here at the shop, I had the other one go out down at the store in town where I sell all the Alexial stuff. And Saturdays are all day doing consults with folks over on Patreon. And Sunday's a family day. I try not to even do anything unless it's involving the family on Sunday. So next time I came up to the shop was Monday morning. Walked up here to a nice chilly shop. And well, as you can imagine, at about 50 degrees, the gel coat did not do what it was supposed to do. Good start to the week, right? But, overall, I guess it wasn't that big a deal because our temperatures here, at least for the past week, they've been unseasonably warm. So warm to the point where on Monday, Tuesday, I think we got, in the middle of January, we got, I'm guessing maybe 3/4 to an inch of rain on top of all the 4, 5, 6 feet of snow that we've already gotten. Good times. So all that rain created a whole nother round of issues. We're in the middle of winter here, again up in the upper Michigan. We've gotten a lot of snow already. Cumulatively, I want to say probably around 8, 9, maybe even 10 feet by now. And it's only mid-January. But anyways, when you get that much snow and you do quite a bit of plowing, what you want to do is you want to have a little bit of base of snow along the bottom so that when you're actually plowing, you're not scraping up your driveway, throwing gravel and all that other nonsense. Which is fine. You typically aren't getting rain in January when you've got, a nice base that you've been trying to build. Well, you get all that snow, all that rain, all of a sudden now that 5, 6 inches of base turns into 5, 6 inches of slop. And there's no getting through that. Even in my truck in 4-wheel drive, nope. So this little round of plowing right now, this is my 3rd time this week that I've been out here getting everything cleared out. And each time takes about, roughly about half a day. And that's if I'm not doing any of the sidewalks. I'm just strictly doing the drive and in front of the house and the road up to the shop. So, yeah, I got about 15 hours of tractor in today, or this week. I'm not complaining, but it does take time away from other things. So I did eventually get the heat fired back up on Monday. And then Monday and Tuesday, I just let the building come up to temperature and the gel coat to warm up. And then Wednesday, Thursday, well, that's when we got hammered with all that crappy weather. And I was stuck doing a bunch of cleanup. Now today is Friday. I haven't been up on the transom yet. I don't know if the gel coat did its thing. I'm really hoping it did. That I can just give it a cleaning and start sanding. Otherwise, I'm looking at having to wipe all that gel coat off, and I really, really don't want to do that. So fingers crossed. Now, the gel coat that we applied on here contained wax, and the way that this works is after the material is applied, the wax floats to the surface, creates that air barrier so that everything beneath it can, cure and do its thing. Now, before we sand this, we need to remove that wax, because if we were to just come in right now and start hitting it with the sander, all we're going to do is we're going to grind that top layer of wax into the glass, and that's not what we want. Instead, again, like I said, we got to remove this. Now, there's really the best way to remove wax on a surface is to use an actual de-waxer. Acetone just doesn't do the best job at dissolving that wax, and it evaporates extremely quickly. Now, generally, the way that you want this to work is you want to be able to flood the surface with a de-waxer. That'll break down the wax, it'll put the wax into suspension into the solvent that we're using, and then we come back and we wipe it off. Now, that solvent's pretty straightforward, but there is a little bit of technique to it. So for example, if we were to just come in with a rag, soaked with a de-waxer and just start rubbing it all around, yeah, we're dissolving the wax, but then we're just smearing it and redistributing the wax over the surface. We're not actually removing it. So instead, you were going to use what's called a two-rag method. Now, we're going to go through a lot of paper towel, but that's all right. Paper towel did at least, unlike eggs, they haven't gone through the roof yet. So instead, the way that we're going to tackle this is we're going to have one rag, saturated with the de-waxer. We're going to wipe the surface, then we're going to come back with a single motion, wipe, flip that rag over, wipe it again, and throw it. Now for the de-waxer, I'm going to be using this because, well, obviously, it's a de-waxer. Now this part, because we're working with a solvent, the fumes are going to be a little bit strong, so I'm going to fire this up and put on my respirator, and hopefully this doesn't dissolve the gel coat. That's going to be the last cure. If the gel coat doesn't dissolve on the rag, then I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable about this whole situation. Now, while I'm waiting for the solvents to evaporate, I want to kind of quickly address a question that I got over and over, from last week's video, which is why did I use gel coat on here rather than using PVA? And to be quite honest, it came down to really two reasons. The first one, PVA it's a water-soluble product, meaning you need to clean it with water. And when I'm in a confined area like this, if I'm coming up here with a Scotch-Brite pad and a bucket of water, and I'm wiping down, scrubbing down the surface, all that PVA-infused water, that's all going to be dripping right down the bottom here. It's going to eventually dry up, and it's going to turn into a hot, sticky mess. I didn't want to deal with that kind of cleanup, to be honest. And also, the second reason is gel coat, it's a thicker material, right? So it has a much easier time filling in the texture or the weave of the fiberglass. Now, I went over this with 1708, so there is, a fair amount of texture on that surface. And the gel coat just helps fill that in so that when you actually, come time to sand it, you get a smoother surface faster. Now, if this had been coated with PVA, again, keeping in mind because this is a textured surface, it's a lot more difficult to ensure that you're able to get that PVA completely out of the texture, just make sure it's completely removed. So for this, in this particular situation, I felt that gel coat was the better option. That's not going to always be the case, but at least for this particular situation, I felt that the gel coat was going to get me to the finish line the easiest and the fastest, providing it actually cured. So, all right. So now I'm gonna mask up here and then start giving this a sand. Now I'm gonna be starting off with some, 36 grit. So I'm looking to do a rip and tear on here. I want to etch this surface as aggressively as I can without completely removing all the material there. So I'm gonna start out with 36 grit, see how it goes. Hopefully we don't gum up a bunch of sandpaper. So all in all, I think you get the idea of sanding here. Now I've sanded from this line over that way. I have not touched anything over here yet, but overall, I think it's looking pretty good. I am getting a little bit of clogging on the sandpaper, but you know, it's really not that bad. And you know, truth be told, at the end of the day, I'm going to end up going over this surface 2, maybe even 3 times, just until I get to the point where I can sand it and I'm not clogging up the paper at all. Once I get to that point, then I know that the surface it's ready to go. But I don't think there's really any point in, you know, having you or dragging you through all this. So Monday is another day. It's already late Friday afternoon, and I need to start editing to get this video uploaded to Patreon tonight. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If nothing else, I hope you got a little bit of a chuckle out of my well, situation here. And if you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you in advance. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, you want to make some fun of me, leave those down below. I'll do my best to follow up with you. And as always, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next Sunday on YouTube. Friday over on Patreon.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.